Okay, there are two things that I really like to emphasize in my storytelling that at first might seem at odds with one another, but in actuality they serve completely different purposes and they actually complement one another. The first of those items is realism, and the second one is big, over-the-top, fantastical elements. Now, like I said, they might seem in opposition to one another, but when I'm talking about realism, I'm talking about realism in physics and realism in nomenclature. And these are the kinds of things that add richness to the world that you create. For instance, we all know that 35-foot tall giants don't exist. This is a fantastical element. But when a 35-foot tall giant reaches down and picks somebody up, they're the size of a Barbie doll. And you can't be shaking, your enemy by the shoulder if you're 35 feet tall. You shake him like this. And this is a reality of the physics of being 35 feet tall. And the other thing is the reality of nomenclature. I once saw a storyteller, she told a story about a key. And when she was talking about the key, she said, this is the bow and this is the bit. And I don't know anything about the nomenclature of keys, but because she said those things, I realized that what she was saying was in fact the nomenclature of a key. And so it actually added to the richness of the whole world that she had created. So this was kind of a, it was like a sparkling point in the story, and it really sucked me in. And at the end I asked her, I said, is that what they're really called? This is the bow and this is the bit? She said, yeah, she looked it up on the internet, so of course it must be true. And so when I'm talking about the realism of nomenclature, today I'd like to talk about firing a machine gun. And there's a lot of important parts to firing a machine gun. I mean, when I say machine gun, there is a device called a machine gun. It's actually a two-handed thing with a tripod and all this jazz, and it's actually a machine. But what I'm talking about is typically what is known as an automatic rifle or an assault rifle or something like that, like an M16. Now, I've actually fired an M16 assault rifle on full auto. It's a really interesting experience. When I was in high school, a bunch of us were in ROTC, mostly to get out of gym class, and we all went up to Camp Pendleton for a special camp that they had us at, and we got to fire. One of the things that we got to do was fire the M16 assault rifle. And so they lined us up. There was probably a dozen of us or 15 of us lined up, and first they let you fire it on what they call semi-auto, which is one shot at a time. You go pow, 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 and you fire out into this hillside where there's this old Jeep that they've been probably shooting at since the 1940s, and there's very little of it actually left. And then they let us fire it on full auto. Now, they don't want 15-year-old kids firing an assault rifle on full auto, because basically what they're going to do is they're going to water the lawn. They're going to just go crazy. So they want you to lay down and do it. And so they put a bipod on the front of the rifle, and they lay it down in the dirt, and then you lay down next to it, and all the fire ants, and they start to bite you. And it's it's like 110 degrees out there, and you're wearing marine fatigues, and you're holding onto this rifle, and you don't hold it like this when you fire from the ground. You put your hand on top of the stock like that. Now, what a lot of people don't know is the front stock of the M16 assault rifle has all of these little holes in it. And the reason for that is the way an automatic rifle works is when the bullet explodes. The explosion sends the projectile out, but it also sends the hammer back or the bolt back. And the reason for that is like when you fire, you see somebody firing a revolver in the movies. You got to pull that hammer back, and then the hammer goes forward and it hits the bullet, and that's what causes the explosion within the bullet. And in an automatic rifle, that's actually caused by the explosion itself. Will send the hammer back, and so that it can come forward for the next round. So, but those explosive gases have to go somewhere once it's sent the hammer back. And where they go on the M16 assault rifle is there's all these little holes in the upper stock and the front stock where the gases come out, the exploding gases. And so you're lying there on the ground, the fire ants are biting the hell out of you, and you're pointing up on this hill that's just like probably got 10 tons of lead embedded in it, and there's 15 kids up and down the line, and you click off the safety, and you realize when somebody sees you go like that to click off the safety, they know that you know what you're talking about, because on the M16 the safety is there next to your thumb. It's not up here by the trigger guard like on a revolver. Now, so you're lying there in the dirt, the fire ants are biting you, you're ready for the fire officer, he says, ready. aim, and somebody of course opens up before he says fire, and we all get chastised for it later. But so you got 15 machine guns going off at once. It's anarchy. The rifle is bouncing around on the ground. You're flinching at every shot. And there's 100 shots coming out of this thing, every minute, or 1,000 shots per minute, something like that. And it's like, and you're flinching, and it's bouncing around on the ground. And like I said, those holes on the front stock, well, those exploding gases are coming out of there. And you're trying to hold the rifle down. But those exploding gases make it feel like you're trying to hold on to a boiling tea kettle by the spout. Oh, it's crazy. It's miserable. You're like, blah, 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 blah. And the thing that you notice, like you have no idea where you're firing. Your bullets are just going up the hill. The thing that you notice is that as you're firing it, this machine gun is right next to your ear, and the sound that it makes is not what you expect. Literally, it goes boing, 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 boing. And that's because there's a 3-foot-long spring in the stock that's been compressed down, and this is one of the ergonomic features of the M16, so that when the bolt goes back, it's like all this recoil is absorbed by the spring, so there's absolutely no kick to this rifle. But you can hear it going boing, boing, boing inside, and so it just totally blows your mind that this deadly weapon with all these exploding cartridges is making the sound of this spring. So anyway, that's the realistic thing about it. And so what I want to do is I want to practice. I want to say, everybody get up on your feet, and what we're going to do is we're going to fire a machine gun. Now this is something every 12-year-old boy instinctively knows how to do, and we all keep it up until manhood, believe me. And what we're going to fire today is not the M16 assault rifle. We're going to fire the Thompson submachine gun. Now this was the machine gun that they used in World War I. It's actually one of the first submachine guns. It fires a 45 caliber round, which is a huge chunk of lead, and it fires 600 rounds per minute, or 10 rounds per second out of this thing. It's really unique looking. It's got those 2 walnut grips, front and back, the nice looking walnut stock. And what everybody knows about the Tommy gun, of course, is that it's got that round 100 round magazine that clicks on the front. So I was going to say, oh yeah, so it's got this really cool macabre name too. They call it the trench broom. Yeah, so anyway, alright, so what you got to do is you got to hold your Tommy gun fore and aft like this, and then you take your 100 round magazine and it clicks in, it goes click, click in like that. Now when you fire an automatic rifle, of course, like I said, the explosion sends the bolt back, but you got to pull the bolt back on the first time. And on the Tommy gun, there's like a knob up on the top. So you go click, click to put in the magazine, to pull back the bolt, and then you open fire. But when you're telling stories, you're not really shooting anything in real life. And so, in real life, you put it up next to your arm, you go, pow, 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 pow. And the only reason you would do that when you're telling a story is if you're a sniper and you're taking real close, careful aim at something. When you're telling stories, everything is fired from the hip. 6 guns, your 45s, whatever, well, except unless you're like putting a cap in somebody, then you turn it sideways and hold it out like that. But everything else is fired from the hip, especially a machine gun. And with the Tommy gun, it's no different. You don't fire it bah, 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 from the shoulder like that. You actually, like I said, you water the lawn. Okay, so it goes like this. You ready? You're clicking, click, zoop. You go, bah, 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 bah. And that's how you fire a machine gun.